Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us at this regular meeting and a special meeting of the Madera City Council. If we can have roll, please.
Mayor Andrew Medellin.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jose Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Cece Gallegos.
Here.
Councilmember Will Oliver.
Here.
Councilmember Derek Robinson absent. Councilmember Charles Rigby.
Here.
And Councilmember Donald Hawley.
Present.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Ladies and gentlemen, from Westside Christian Fellowship, we have with us Pastor Barry Bernard, who will be leading us in the invocation. If you would stand with me, please.
Let's pray. Father, I come this evening just privileged to be here. I thank you for the men and women who spend their time and commitment, Lord, to help run this city, to help make decisions. I know they're not always easy. I know they're not always popular. But Father, I thank you for their commitment to do this work. It's important. And I'm proud to live here, Lord. I'm proud to call this my community. And I'm proud to know that such people are so busily working to make this the best place that it can possibly be. So I pray for your special blessing upon them tonight. I pray you would give them great wisdom and insight into the issues at hand. I pray that they would deal with fairness, but also with resolve to do what is right. And I just pray your blessing would fall upon them for that very reason. I pray for their families, Lord. I know it's hard when someone that you love is gone so many hours, but even when they're doing good work, it can be a strain. So I pray you would protect them and bless them. Just be with them, Lord, and watch over them as they keep watch over this city. I pray for our community, Lord, that you would unite us and fill us with passion. If we see things that are wrong, rather than to get upset or to complain, Lord, to see what we can do about being part of the solution. And Father, I just pray that your favor would rest upon us and that you would honor us, Lord, tonight with your presence and also just with your insight and direction into where we should go and how we should get there. Father, I give you such praise and thanks for all that you do, all that you have done, and all that you will do as we continue to seek you and, as it says on the wall, to trust in you in all things. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Bernard. Appreciate it. If you'll join me in the pledge, please. Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving into public comment, the first 15 minutes of the meeting are reserved for members of the public to address the council on items which are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers will be asked to identify themselves and state the subject of their comment. If the subject is an item on the agenda, the mayor has the option of asking the speaker to hold that comment until that item is called. Comments on items listed as a public hearing on the agenda should be held until the hearing is opened. The council is prohibited by law from taking any action on matters discussed that are not on the agenda, and no adverse conclusions should be drawn if the council does not respond to public comment at this time. Is there anyone wishing to speak under this definition of public comment?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Graciela Valdez, address 2300 Riverview Drive, Madera 93637. Good evening, everybody. My name is Graciela. I'm from the Madera County Department of Public Health. I work for the Tobacco Control Program as well as the Reproductive Health Education Program. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for helping us and supporting us on our Walk to School event that we had on October 3rd. It was a great success. Mayor Medellin, Councilmember Hawley, it was so great having you there. We all had a really great time. And for those of you who are not familiar with Walk to School, it takes place on the first Wednesday of every October. And it's a way to raise awareness about the benefits, the health benefits, the environmental benefits of biking and walking to school every morning. Looking forward, we have another event coming up on the 24th. So next Wednesday will be the first annual Walk to School for George Washington Elementary. And it would be great to see all of you there. We'll be there as early as 6:30, meeting at the John Wells Youth Center and then walking to the school at 7:15. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Valdez. It was a lot of fun. With all the kids are so excited in the morning and all the staff. And we also want to thank our police department for providing those escorts to both schools for those children. Thank you for coming down this evening and sharing with us.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. Anyone else wishing to speak under this definition of public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and move into our presentation we have this evening, which is second quarter reports from Mid-Valley Disposal. Ms. Kwok.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Annette Kwok, and I'm always happy to be here and present. Let me find my PowerPoint. There you go. Okay, this is for first and second quarter updates. And my overview is I want to talk about the commercial site visits as we've done, things that is happening in the community that we've done, our Sharps collection, and our used motor oil collection, and upcoming events. Within the first 2 quarters of this year, we had 82 business visits, and we have a lot of outstanding commercial customers that do a great job. Perkles Restaurant, the Madera Housing Authority, I just want to tell you guys that you are doing a great job. We are continually monitoring the Housing Authority because we had a little bit of issues, but all in all, they're doing a great job.
Told you.
So they're on my list for Recyclers of the Year, so they have to keep it up. 14 multifamily visits, and I actually contacted 29 customers for commercial customers for presentations, and out of the 29, I got one. I was very happy to present to the Madera Morning Rotary. No, Noon Rotary. So that was great. This is some of the items that I see when I do my site visits. We actually go into the bin and take pictures and move stuff around to make sure they're doing a great job. And, of course, Alpha School and Jack in the Box, they're all doing a great job. And actually, Jack in the Box does also have an organics bin. They're recycling the food waste. And like I said before, we don't use it again. We're making compost out of it. This is the organic customers that we have right now. Black Bear, Rancho San Miguel, the Vineyard Restaurants, and 3 of the schools. We'll be working on implementing more schools within this next few months. So that's a big chore, but we can do it. I'm confident. Like I said, this is the organics. And if you notice, the Vineyard Restaurant does have the plastic bags in their organics bin, but it's compostable. It disintegrates. It doesn't, we can compost it. So Chris is very eco-friendly. So when I went there, I said, oh no, you have plastic bags. He goes, oh no, look at the box. So he's on it. Okay, the very great curbside cleanup that we all love within the city of Madera. It goes for about 28 days. This year, we had 1,480 tons of refuse. Metal was 49 tons of metal. And mattresses diverted from the landfill was over 900 mattresses.
Wow.
Yes. So that's a good sign that they did not go to the landfill. So as you can see, the trucks on the road and all the trash that people leave out, which it's a good thing. We're helping the neighborhoods and helping the residents clean up their stuff. Within the community, I've reached 3,200 members of the community, whether it be commercial, multifamily, or residential. I participated in 12 community events, and you can see Earth Day is a big time of the year. So starting April 1st, because Earth Day is April 22nd, so I start getting calls starting April 1st. So that's the best time of the year. And I just wanted to show you a little bit of the stuff that I do. I was very privileged to help out at the Madera High Science Fair. I've done the business extravaganza. We give two $2,500 scholarships to 2 graduating seniors. So this year at Madera South, I can't remember their names, Javier Vasquez Reese received a $2,500 scholarship. And for Madera High, it was Sharus Ahmed. So they were very excited. And I'm always excited to have coffee with a cop. As you can see there in the lower right-hand picture, there's a new police officer in the wings. And also in the community, we like to see that the kids get involved. They're the ones that are our future for recycling. And this is what we do for a lot of the kids that we see out and about that are so attracted to our trucks. We give them little trucks so they can play with. And those are cute kids.
Those are some extremely cute kids.
Those kids are so cute. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're pretty cute. Just to let everybody know that we take care of 2 kiosks within the city of Madera. One is at the Fire Station 7 on Schnorr, and the other one is at Madera Police Department. So far this last year, we picked up 679 pounds of sharps, and those are needles, lancets, and as you can see, it gets used often. We service it about every other week, so they're getting full. They're getting utilized. We just have to give a little bit more of the outreach so that they're not putting them in plastic bags or throwing in there loose. So that's basically what my outreach is about. And the used motor oil program, that the residents can put their oil and their filters out in the curb on their day of pickup. Last year, this last January through June, we picked up 283 gallons and 25 oil filters. So our drivers can only pick up per day 8 gallons. So there's a lot of different places the residents could go to drop off their used motor oil, both AutoZones and the O'Reillys. And you can take up to 5 gallons per day per customer. And the upcoming events, Pomegranate Festival, I'll be there all day with a booth, the Madera Christmas Parade, and Trees for Charity. At this time, do I have any questions?
Thank you so much, Annette. Any questions of Ms. Kwok regarding the first and second quarter reports? You certainly are everywhere. I don't think that this report does it justice for all the places you are. Mm-hmm. I should have seen more pictures because you are absolutely everywhere.
I know, but I didn't want to take everybody's time. But at this time, it is my pleasure. I am so excited that I happen to have a new team member. Her name is Irma Capistran. Irma, come up so I can introduce you. I told her I was going to make her talk, but she says, please no. But you know what? This is the new generation of recycling coordinators. She's young, she's ambitious, and she just started out the door. As soon as she's going to be taking care of multi-families in Madera, and she's doing an awesome job.
Fantastic.
Amen.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we're excited. I finally have someone in my office so I can talk to, because evidently they tell me I could even talk to a wall. But is there anything else?
Just
Any
don't
other
let
questions?
The wall answer back.
I know. That's the fun part. Any other questions?
Welcome, Irma. Happy to have you as part of the team. And we've had a transition period, Annette, over the last quarter or two.
Yes.
Things are going smooth?
Yes. That's why my presentation is a little bit late, because we waited until the go-ahead for the other part of the contract to be completed. So that's why I'm a little bit behind, but we are on schedule now, and everything is going very smoothly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're running.
Well, no calls from constituencies sometimes is a good thing, And Mid-Valley has always done a fantastic job for the city of Madera, and we look forward to continuing that partnership and having great things happen in Madera. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having us. Thank
Irma,
you.
welcome aboard.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you. You too. If the council will oblige, I want to first begin with consent calendar, and then if we can move into the one item on our special meeting under admin reports. Would that be okay with council? Yes. Thank you very much for that. So with that, let's move into our consent calendar, and I will ask if there's any council member wishing to pull any particular item for further discussion or question or comment. Seeing none, I'll call for action on the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve consent calendar as presented.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on into our special hearing item under admin reports, item E1. This is consideration of a minute order approving a short sale for property located at 1139 Tosky Drive and authorizing the mayor to execute an approval letter.
Mayor, since this has my name on it, I'll go ahead and introduce
Thank
the
you.
item. We were approached. This is an item that I'm going to have Jorge Rojas, I think he's here. I'm going to have him come up and kind of give you details on the history on this. But essentially, we had two loans secured by deeds of trust against a piece of property. Those loans were in default, as well as to the primary lender. We were actually in second position on that, and there is a request to approve a short sale. And of course, to do the short sale means we'd take less than full payment and satisfaction. The other side of that coin would be is if it went to foreclosure, we'd take nothing because it would all go to satisfy the primary loan. But I'll let Jorge kind of give you at least a little background on how it got there without disclosing anything personal finance-wise. But approvals we've secured with the granting agency and that type of thing.
Thank you, Brent.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The process began in 2013. We received the first short sale notice. It was determined not to accept the short sale, and no other communication occurred until February of this year. And shortly thereafter, I was approached by a realtor that had the property, was working with the surviving heir, and to process a short sale for her. She is unemployed, makes piñatas. She lost her income from taking care of her parents, in-home supportive care when her parents passed away. And that's how we arrived to this point today to process the short sale. The state is not a part of it. However, they do require that we do our due diligence and make certain that the borrower knows the consequences of the short sale and make any attempt to obtain alternative financing such as HARP, and also obtain counseling and refer her to an attorney regarding any tax consequences. So that was done and documented. And the short sale letter was drafted according to Chicago Title's requirements. And now it's pending the signature of the mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Jorge. When was the original loan approved?
2008.
And you had mentioned the circumstances, which was obviously beyond the control of the original person. So in 2013, you said that was the original notice.
That's when the father passed away.
Okay.
And so they had started a short sale then, but it didn't proceed to a short sale.
And the mother had passed away as well? Is that-
She passed away between then and February. I don't have the exact date.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to kind of lay down the foundation here of how this came about. It sounds unfortunate. Thank you, Jorge. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Medellin. Jorge, so short sales, foreclosures, common, but in this case, this is significant because the city is the lien holder on this second, correct?
Correct. On
And-
two, a second and a third.
A second and a third, okay. And the funds that are utilized, that were utilized to help with this purchase, were they funds directly from the city coffers, or was this funding from the state?
Funding from the state.
Okay, so that funding administered by the city then needs to sign off on it so that you can satisfy the state and move forward on this short sale?
Correct.
Okay, so just making clear that the city is not really, well, I mean, it's nevertheless it's state money, taxpayer money, of course, but the city is not taking a loss here.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. And not going this route would leave us with no gain
Correct.
whatsoever, right?
Yes.
Versus if
Yes.
you go with the foreclosure, you see no gain, we go short sale, we gain something.
Yes.
Okay. And do we have that amount by any chance?
It's approximately a little bit over $4,000.
$4,000. Okay. Thank you, Jorge.
You're welcome.
Good points, Mayor Pro Tem. It's always good to clear that out.
Well, I just want to make sure that we're not, I did have a call, and the call was, hey, how is it that the city is losing out on this money? I wanted to reassure that, and I want to make sure that I put this on record. This is not city funds, but rather they're administered funds from the state. They're still public funds that obviously taxpayers pay because these funds come from a certain source that are generated to down payment assistance and what have you. But in this case, it's not the city's own funds that are being lost at this point.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
And through the mayor, just to clarify too, Jorge, if I'm not mistaken, that money will then go back into the program to be used for.
Any eligible activity.
Okay.
Which is a successful program. I mean, we've used it before. It's a very successful program, and so this is just kind of one of those unforeseen circumstances. But all in all, I don't have the statistics in front of me. It's a program that's been utilized by others, and it's a very successful
Yes.
program. Any other questions of Mr. Rojas or Mr. Richardson at this point? Seeing none, I will call for action.
Move to approve?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve item E1 as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you for that. Now we'll move into the agenda for the regular city council meeting, starting with item C1. This is consideration of a resolution setting a public hearing to determine whether the public interest and necessity, safety, or welfare require the formation of a Rule 20B Underground Utility District number 19. Ms. Bitter, good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you tonight is related to the Olive Avenue widening project. The limits of that project are from Gateway to Knox, and I know that you've been a party to some of the right-of-way acquisition details. We've been working through that project. This particular piece is related to the utility poles that are in conflict with the ultimate roadway improvements to develop to an arterial standard. It has been the policy from the last 10 years plus when we do collector and arterial street improvements and widenings that we go the extra step and place those utilities in a system underground. It improves the aesthetics of the community, and it does provide enhanced safety because there's no longer an obstruction out there that could potentially be hit by a vehicle. So this project falls in line with that procedure. We don't always form a formal district, but in this case there are a few occupied properties that will be impacted. Not financially, the project itself should take care of any conversions, but it's just putting those known owners on notice that we will be coming onto the property to look at their current utility services and what it will take to convert it, and then planning for the conversion from overhead to underground. The The street is currently in its arterial width from Roosevelt to Knox, but the school, Sierra Vista School, does have some overhead utilities, telephone and cable, that we haven't officially met, but they know we're coming to talk to them, and they will work with them on their conversion as well. So of the properties within the district, there are 13 parcels. 3 of them are going to be acquired by the city and cleared, so they don't have any conversions that need to take place. And one is the well site that does have a transformer that is going to have to be relocated anyways. The recycling property is already fed underground, and then 6 are vacant. So the impact on those is that should they come in with some development proposal with the district in place, they would be required to receive underground service feed rather than requesting overhead, which is generally a little cheaper. And then there are 2 or 3 that are going to need the conversions. Tonight's resolution sets the public hearing. Notice will be sent to all the affected property owners, and then and it's proposed to set the date for November 7th, and then they will all receive notice for that public hearing, at which time they, can send anything in ahead of time or attend the meeting if they have any comments on that. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you very much. Councilman Hawley.
Ms. Mayor, she answered my question. Thank you.
Fantastic. Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one quick clarification from my experience in some of the Rule 20 projects. I understand that the timeline can be quite extensive, especially on PG&E's side and their approval. What does that timeline look like for the 20B projects? What are we anticipating, and can this potentially compromise our project in terms of our internal timeline that we have?
From our previous meetings with PG&E and the utilities, their timeline works with the project timeline. They are working on the design already, and when that's complete, then the agreements will come before you. Trying to think back of some time frames. I do believe that they will all have their designs complete, and we should have agreements before you for all 3 utilities by next spring. And between what we still need to coordinate with the railroad, I think that we aren't going to compromise our bidding date for that project. Rule 20A projects, I know, take a lot longer, and that the city does absorb the costs with the 20B, but we would be looking at 2 to 3 years out if we were going to pursue the 20A funds for this project.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ms. Bitter regarding this particular item? Ellen, thank you very much. We'll bring it back to council for direction.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve item C1 as presented.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve item C1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item C2, this is a public hearing and consideration of introduction of an ordinance amending subsection B of section 3-5.08 of chapter 5 of title 3 of the Madera Municipal Code. This is Mr. Aldama will be presenting.
Well, good evening, council members. My name is Victor Aldama. I'm representing the engineering department here. I'm here today to introduce a public hearing and consideration of amending the ordinance for the speed limits. There's currently 3 road segments to be adjusted by 5 miles per hour on this proposed amendment. The first one will be Knox Street from Olive Avenue to Tozier Street. There's recently, within the 6 months, there was a study along this road segment. A speed survey was conducted. As a result of the speed survey, it resulted on a 45 mile per hour 85th percentile. The 85th percentile is typically what the speed limit usually set for a certain road segment, and that's what 85% of the residents or citizens driving along a road segment. This speed limit could be adjusted based on an engineering study. In this case, it was reduced due to two current existing horizontal curbs that exist along that road segment that cannot accommodate a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit. Therefore, we propose to reduce that segment by 5 miles per hour. The second location will be along Yosemite Avenue from Gateway Drive to Pine Street. A consultant recently performed an engineering study along that segment from L Street to N Street. And based on their study, it was determined that this road segment as well cannot accommodate a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit as a result of high pedestrian volumes crossing going to high school and vice versa going to TJ. The other reasoning for this was the line of sight it's not adequate for 40 mile per hour, as well as stop sight distances. Okay, and the third segment was Westbury Boulevard from Sunset Avenue to River Drive Road. And on this segment, there was a speed survey conducted in 2016 and was determined that this road segment is adequate for 40 mile per hour. The current speed posted on that road segment is 45 mile per hour. So upon adoption of this amendment, will be reduced to 40 miles per hour. And then I would like to add a note to this that this amendment will be important, at least for enforcement. Police department is currently not able to enforce the proposed speed limit unless this ordinance is accepted and adopted. So, yeah, I'll open it up for question right now.
Thank you very much, Victor. I do have a couple of questions regarding those particular items. First, maybe it's just clarification on Knox Street from Olive to Tozier, because Olive and Tozier, they're not parallel, they're perpendicular. So is it the all of Olive Avenue? Or what is the
It would be Knox Street.
So just from Knox to Tozier.
It would be along Knox Street from Olive to Tozier.
No.
So,
Okay,
It's on Olive, it's Knox Street intersection.
yeah,
Road Olive, from Olive to
I'm a little confused.
So,
yeah, I'm just kind of, because Knox and Tozier run parallel.
right.
So when you say from Knox,
It would be from Olive to Tozier.
Here, I
Okay.
Knox Street does come off of Olive Avenue and heads due south for probably a half to 3/4 of a mile. But at some point, it makes a turn to the east and connects up to Tozier Street.
and so that's where you're talking, and those are the curves you're talking about.
Those are not actually the curves, but those that would represent one more example. There's that curve, then there's a point on the roadway where traffic is asked to go ahead and move over very quickly over short distance. Then right around, I think it's Almond Avenue, there is in fact a curve in that section of the roadway too.
Okay,
And we've posted those with lower speeds.
good, certainly needed. And the other clarification for the Westbury one, on the location item numbers, there's on item 52 and 53, what you're proposing on Westbury from Sunset to Riverview is 40, but from Sunset to Howard is 45. So, but that's all one street. Why would we have two different speed limits broken up by a four-way stop at Sunset? Why wouldn't all of Westbury be the same? And then I think on Westbury, the 40 mile an hour you have, there are no residents that actually pull out onto Westbury, but on the 45 mile an hour, there's actually one resident that pulls out onto Westbury. So would it just kind of be easier to make the whole street one speed limit?
Okay, are you talking about heading northbound and southbound?
Yeah.
Having different speed limits?
Because this is broken up into two pieces, starting at Sunset.
Right.
So Sunset North to Riverview is 40.
Mhm.
But Sunset South to Howard is 45.
Okay, I wasn't part of the original survey, but I could possibly answer part of it. So basically, the way this is determined is based on the speed surveys, and as allowable per California Vehicle Code, you could reduce it by 5 miles per hour if it's adequate and if it's determined by an engineering study. In this specific road segment, I would say that it was probably not, it did not meet the 40 mile per hour range based on the 85th percentile. And going along the north section, it did meet the 40 miles per hour range. But yeah, you could answer the second.
With regard to setting speed limits, you generally go ahead and pick segments of roadways. Now, you try to go ahead and pick distinct roadways. Sometimes they're consistent from segment to segment to segment. What we've got is we do have a break in there with the four-way stop, so we have one segment there that the 85th percentile came up with 45 miles per hour, while the next segment came up with 40 miles per hour. We can choose to go ahead and break those up and try to come up with a reason, an engineering reason, to go ahead and adjust one or the other. In fact, we could go ahead and into the area where there are residential uses. We could go ahead and look at that. There wasn't considered to be any need to go ahead and do that, though.
If we could, Keith and Victor, I appreciate your answer. Thank you very much for that. Based on discussions with Lincoln School and a couple of neighborhood watches regarding Westbury and some of the donuts that are done in Cedar Creek, that's right there on the corner of Sunset and Westbury, if we can look at this, make it match, I think it kind of just seems easier to be one speed limit. I'd like it to be the lesser at 40 miles per hour. If we can do that, if you can find it in engineering, or we can have a discussion later on, I just kind of think it makes more sense. I think it's safer, and it certainly is an answer to some of the concerns we have over the residents in that area.
We can most certainly look at it. The things we look for with regard to the potential to go ahead and lower by 5 miles per hour, again in conformance with vehicle code, is reduced sight distances, higher volumes of pedestrians, potentially going to the schools back and forth. Those are the things we look for. It's either a physical restriction in the roadway or other reasons that would cause you to go ahead and consider it a little. You want to look for a little bit more safety with a lower speed.
Sure, exactly.
We can most certainly look at that segment.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawley has a question.
Yes, let's go back to Holly Street and Knox. Are we bringing the whole street down to 40 from Tozier all the way to Gateway, or are we just breaking it up in segments?
Trying to picture it in my mind.
Okay, right in front of Service to School. That's Holly Street.
That's outside. That's outside of this particular one. That is the Olive Avenue project. What we've got right now is I've got a speed survey right around Knox Avenue that shows an 85th percentile speed right around Knox of 42 miles per hour. We did check that in the last 2 or 3 months. That was as a result of looking at the intersection of Knox and Olive for the purposes of four-way stop or a traffic signal. What I'm thinking right now is the speed limit is going to be starting out with a posted speed of 40 adjacent to the school, and we're fairly solid with where we can be. We can be at 40. We might potentially be lower, but what will actually happen when we complete the roadway, it's going to be designed to a bit of a higher standard. So the 85th percentile after construction, that's where we're going to end up finding out what the ultimate speed will be. Because there is a school on the street, yes, we will be looking to go ahead and utilize the ability to reduce the speed limit by 5 miles per hour from whatever the 85th percentile says it would be. We'll be looking to go ahead and keep it at the safest, lowest speed. That would be probably the easiest answer.
Great. Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, want to say thank you for your department's good work on working on a restriping of Granada between Cleveland and Foxglove. That was an area that a lot of constituents have weighed in on in terms of speeders and people that use that wide roadway to race. I just wanted to see, with respect to the current miles per hour signage that's there now that we've put in the restriping, we've narrowed the travel lanes, we've added a bicycle lane to help, slow down traffic. Can we go back and study that again to see if we might now meet an 85th percentile that's lesser than the current?
We most certainly can. I am very hopeful that the narrowing of the lanes through there did have an effect on speeds, and I am curious about what it might have done. So yes, we can. It's always a good thing to go ahead and see whether your attempt succeeded.
Thank you.
So we'll go ahead and get that going.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
I just wanted to commend you. I talked to a lot of residents on the benchmark homes on the left and the right, and they are going to be ecstatic to see the speed limit is going down in that curve road where people are always speeding, and they venture out to come out of that area. They're taking a long way out because they're going so fast. So they're going to be excited. They're going to have another way to exit out of their.
Is that? I'm sorry. That's Granada Drive?
No, that's Knox, Olive, and Tozier.
I think our signs are already actually up in that area.
All right.
At 40, they've been up for a few months. It's just this was the piece of the process that we had to put in place so that PD could go ahead and enforce and actually be able to go ahead and defend it in court.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So Keith, does that mean that anybody that's been speeding is retro can go back? No?
Not to my knowledge.
This is a notice public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak on this particular item? Please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Victor, you did a fantastic job. Threw you for a couple of curves. My apology. I meant to call you ahead of time, or Keith, and I didn't get around to it.
Okay.
But you did a fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I will ask for title.
Introduction of an ordinance amending subsection B of section 3-5.08 of chapter 5 of title 3 of the Madera Municipal Code relating to the adjustment of speed limits in certain zones.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to waive further reading and introduce item C1 as presented. C2. I apologize.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to waive further reading and introduce the ordinance. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to item C3. This is consideration of a resolution approving a program development agreement between the City of Madera and NG Services US, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're pleased this evening to be recommending the approval of a program development agreement with NG Services. The program agreement will allow NG to prepare a detailed site assessment for somewhere around 50 sites in the city. Primarily those are building sites. They're also well sites, pump stations, and so forth. The purpose is to identify opportunities for energy retrofits and energy conservation measures to be installed. So things like solar installations, electrical services, electrical vehicle charging stations, HVAC changeouts, those kinds of things are examples of the opportunities that we'll be looking for. We come to you after having had the opportunity to look at proposals from 3 firms to perform these kinds of services. The timing here just really aligned that we had 3 really, really good firms, all of which have exceptional backgrounds, all asking to perform this kind of assessment for us at the same time. And so we took the opportunity to solicit sort of what we might call preliminary evaluations or preliminary proposals from those 3 firms. And after doing that, NG Services stood out as having certainly the most comprehensive proposal, the most well-rounded proposal, offering sort of the most types of projects as well as the greatest top-end savings. So we're really excited to be here this evening. There's no cost for this agreement at this time. The clear intention is to move from this PDA, this Program Development Agreement, and the assessment that it would allow into an energy services contract under which NG would actually make improvements to city facilities that are called out in the assessments and then ultimately selected by the city. So the city isn't bound to enter into a next step, but the point of doing this is to identify improvements that make sense and then go into that next step where improvements are done. Representatives from NG are here this evening. They're perhaps behind me. Looks like they are. Ashu and Carolyn. And they're going to make a brief presentation providing you some background regarding the company, as well as describing the services that will be performed under the assessment. And welcome Angie to the podium behind me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Merchant. And good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members and staff. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present this evening. We are absolutely delighted to be here. My name is Carolyn Kiesner. I'm the program manager for NG Services, and I'm here with my colleague and senior manager, Ashu Jain. We first wanted to really commend the city for taking these strides and next steps towards evaluating and developing a potential energy program for the city. And I think as we go through our presentation this evening, you'll see through our feasibility study, we think there really is a wonderful opportunity for the city to make some critical energy-related facility upgrades, and in addition to that, generate some energy savings and dollars back to the city as well. So without further ado, I will jump in. So what we'd like to go through with you today, share a little bit of information about us and our organization, and then just dive into the program that we've developed so far. So discuss the program goals, the scope of work, and then review a preliminary financial analysis. NG Services. So NG as a global organization is actually the largest independent electricity producer in the world, predominantly well known in Europe, but globally, worldwide, we have 150,000 employees, and the reason we share this is so you know that we are a very financially secure and stable organization. In terms of our business unit, NG Services US, we have over 44 plus years of doing energy projects. In terms of our footprint in California, we have 8 offices in California, and we're headquartered in Oakland, California. We have several resources, 375 nationwide, but in California alone, we have 125 dedicated engineers and operations people in California. I myself am an engineer, mechanical engineer and certified energy manager, and Mr. Jain here is a licensed Ashu is a licensed professional engineer as well. In terms of our solar experience, I think it's really important to understand solar is a big part of this program that we're looking at, and it's important to understand that the company you're working with has the experience to do solar. So we've done over 250 megawatts of solar in California with public sector customers, so cities, counties, K-12, and cities like yourself. Lighting is a big part of this program as well. In 2017 alone, we did 210,000 interior and exterior LED retrofits, and in terms of our projects to date, we've done $2.5 billion in projects. Really wanted to give you a snapshot of our experience here in the Central Valley. What you can see here is just a list of our partners, and we've done over $200 million of work in the Valley. Our resources are here. We're doing projects quite a bit in the area, and what I like to point out is that, as you can see, we do multiple phases of work when we work with our customers. So they ask us to come back and do multiple phases, which I think speaks to our ability to deliver on time and on budget. And here we have a snapshot of our city partners here in California, and I think we really wanted to display this to show our city experience and our understanding of really working with cities and understanding city priorities. Project goals. So enough about us. We really wanted to dive into what we've developed so far for the city of Madera in terms of an energy project and feasibility study. It was really important to us as we worked with staff to really identify the goals of this program, and we identified 4 goals here that Ashu will kick off.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It was really important that that we come up with a project that not only improves upon your old infrastructure, but also saves you money, and that's what we've been able to do. If you, as you know, in your current budget, you have a $1.3 million deficit. I know staff has a brilliant record of converting those deficits into surpluses at the end. But a project like this not only improves your infrastructure, but will actually, based on our preliminary findings, will contribute $300,000 towards making up a quarter of the deficit. So we're really happy about that. There's projects here that are on their CIP list. So if you implement it through this project, paid out of savings, You don't have to. You can save money on your CIP list. So as you'll see, when we go through the scope, there's a lot of projects here like air conditioning improvements for City Hall and other buildings that are really needed. So by doing it through this project, you're really saving on your general fund, because the way this project gets funded is through energy savings. So you don't use your general fund dollars to do this project. You're basically going to contribute to the general fund. I'm going to let Carolyn talk about the community.
And the last two goals, the third goal we outlined here was connect to the community. We understand that Madera has a very engaged community, and it's always important for our organization to connect our energy programs to the community. And we'll actually go into this a little bit more in detail in the coming slides. And then our fourth and final goal was to advance the Vision of Madera 2025 plan. And I think we can do that in three categories. And one is quality environment. I think we can improve sustainability, conservation, and your climate action plan goals. Improve public safety with a couple of the measures that we came up with. And then lastly, help maintain a healthy general fund. Okay.
Thank you. I'll briefly go through the scope of work. Now, this is very condensed. We, of course, have a lot of detail, so please feel free to ask any questions. What we are proposing is, first and foremost, doing LED lighting in all your facilities and buildings, indoor and outdoor. The city has made a dramatic improvement in your energy conservation efforts by going to LED lighting for your street lights, and that is really important. But that has been completed, and that's commendable. But we can, of course, make a significant improvement in lighting in your facilities. Like I mentioned, HVAC, we looked at these 4 facilities that have HVAC that are well past their life. So, we can definitely renovate and replace these air conditioning units. There are some other minor items, the switchgear and transformer replacement. It's a public hazard. The way the switchgear is right now, it needs to be replaced. This is more of a public safety item. The main recommendation, of course, is solar project. What we are and these are, of course, all preliminary. We will do a deep dive if your council decides to approve this study and work with staff to finalize everything. So right now we have a 2.3 megawatt project at the golf course, and that project is specifically meant to avoid electricity use at buildings where you have an electrical consumption, but you don't have space to put solar. So you're going to put the solar at the golf course and use that energy. You'll sell it to PG&E, and PG&E will give you a credit at all your other buildings. And where we could install solar, directly connect to the meter at site, that's more attractive financially. So you can see we have solar projects at the wastewater treatment plant. And by the way, we'll make every effort to basically make the existing solar project work as efficiently as it was supposed to do. So City Hall and some other facilities. Battery storage is, we are proposing that for some wells. Battery storage is simply like a Tesla car battery and applied to buildings. You charge the battery at night when the cost of power is low, and you use it up during the daytime. And there's phenomenal incentives from PG&E for this. EV charging station, car charging stations, that's, we are proposing those at City Hall and Public Works. And there's tremendous amount of incentives for that also. Literally, it is almost free. There's that many incentives from the local APCD, from PG&E. There are some measures that we still need to fully vet out. Solar street lighting, the city decided to move forward with that. They did some sample lighting. We walked pretty much every street in Madera at night, and there are several streets that are completely dark. And we have a list of all these streets, and the idea is that we'll be able to, complete the project that the city started and install solar street lights. And solar street lights, the benefit is you don't need any electrical infrastructure, and they come battery backed, so it's not like if you have a cloudy day, the light won't come on. So, and then there are some other items that we still need to explore with Public Works. Go ahead, Kel.
Community impact, I touched on this earlier, but our organization has a whole team dedicated to community impact, and there are things we've done with our other partners, from engaging with the Parks Department and engaging in internships and workforce development, and we'd be looking at ways to do that here in Madera. We understand you have a very engaged neighborhood watch program. Maybe we get engaged with the neighborhood watch program, but the idea would be we'd work with staff to essentially develop a way to connect us to the community. And then lastly, we have a wonderful PR team, and we do understand the importance to relaying milestones and successes to the community. So we'd be thrilled to put together a celebratory ribbon cutting or groundbreaking event.
Right, this is the preliminary financial analysis. It's really involved. I just want to point out some major things. The total project cost for what we estimated, what we had proposed, is around $12.2 million. And the idea is that this will be financed through a third party, and we make no money on the financing, we just arrange it. Currently, we are seeing interest rates of around 3.75% over 20 years, and there are some other assumptions. And basically what this cash flow is showing is that after paying for all your costs, you're still going to save over $300,000. When the lease payments are paid off, you're going to save a total of $23 million over the life of the project. And the energy savings are guaranteed by us. So if we save less than what we are displaying here, or when we do the final engineering, we actually write the city a check for 20 years to make up the difference. And it's a hard guarantee, so it's all spelled out in our contract. Let me take you through some of the benefits. This project saves $23 million, estimated $23 million. Usually we can get to a much higher amount of savings. We are showing 40% here. Sorry, I got a bad throat. Excuse me. But because you have a lot of, there's a certain part of the electricity bill that we can't avoid because of location issues on the solar side. And also you have a tremendous bill on your street lights, which PG&E owns, that we can't touch that. And so there is 40% is what we've, you're spending approximately $2 million a year is what you're spending in your electricity cost right now. So the more you save, the more you're dependent on PG&E, so it's a hedge against the energy cost. I want to talk about this program, RES-BCT. That's the program that allows a city to install solar project at one location and avoid electricity use at other locations. The program was actually oversubscribed by the end of the last year, and some of the applications fell off. So we, working with staff, made a decision when it opened up to file the application. It required a fee of $10,000, which we have submitted. So what we've offered to the city here is really something really unique, which we rarely offer, is that we'll do this study. Normally, it'll truly cost us over $100,000. And what we've offered is that we'll do it at no cost to the city. If we do the study and the city decides not to implement any project, it's on us. But we are confident that, this is a great project and the city will move forward. So I think I don't want to take a lot of your time. The other things we talked about. It's a good project where you're saving a lot of your staff's time by replacing older mechanical units, LED lighting, and there's a lot of public safety items here. So all in all, I think it's a great project because you're taking care of your critical infrastructure needs and you're saving money. So it's a great project. If you decide to give us approval to move forward with the study, that'll take around 3 to 4 months. And hopefully we'll come back in March or April time frame to back to the council for approval of the actual contract for implementation. And then it'll take us a year to implement it. Be happy to take any questions. That's it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you both very, very much. You had me at energy savings $300,000. have a couple of notes here. Just give me a quick second. Any questions from council to Mr. Jane or Ms. Kiesner? Councilman Rigby.
Yeah, I'd like to first of all thank Mr. Jane and Ms. Kiesner for coming out and making the presentation. And Mr. Mayor, I just think that this is a great start to what is long overdue in the city, having an energy plan. I think that shows that City Hall is interested in not only energy savings, but sustainability, conservation. I mean, anything to keep maintenance at a minimal overall is a great move for our city moving forward. And so I think this is a great exercise for us to go through, and I'm appreciative of all the guarantees in the contracts. And so, Mr. Merchant, thank you for you and your team for negotiating either tough or maybe it was easy. I don't know. But
he's extremely tough, let me tell you.
He's tough to sit across from. I understand. But I think that's an incredible guarantee. If our energy savings fall short, they pick up the tab. That's pretty impressive.
Very much so. Very much so. Very good points. Thank you very much for that. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Medellin. First of all, I'd too like to thank both of you for the presentation. I see that solar will be the next industrial revolution, so to speak. I think as more and more institutions and entities start really winging off the fossil fuel, I think the renewable energy is going to be the next big thing. And just converting to that infrastructure, I think, is going to take some time, but this is the initial stages of what's taking place. I did have a question with respects to the rate. Now, you did say there's an estimate of 3.5% or 4%. Now, those rates on these type of loans, are they fixed? Are they variable, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, so it's a tax-exempt lease. And again, what we do on behalf of the city, if the city, if the city wants, we will do a request for a proposal. We generally approach around 10 to 15 banks. So we'll get rates, and we're not a municipal advisor, so we don't even make a recommendation. We package the results and send it to your staff to pick a company. What we are seeing is around 3.75% rate for 20 years, all in, and it's fixed for the life of the contract. So it's fixed rate for 20 years.
Good.
Yeah.
The second question I have is, you mentioned certain sites, and obviously the sites are great, but what kind of infrastructure are we looking at? Are we looking parking lot for solar? Are we looking rooftops? What are we looking at when it comes to these improvements?
We have a picture for a layout for each project that we mentioned. Just because of time considerations, we didn't put it in, but it's ground mounted, the wastewater at the golf course and the wastewater treatment plant. City Hall is parking lot, covered parking lots. And I think the rest of them are all covered parking.
Great. Yeah, when you mentioned the golf course, I see that that's becoming the norm now when you see parking lots, and I think that probably is best utilized when it comes to these panels. Last but not least is, in the initial stages of these solars, are there any rebates that the city would get back with respect to solar?
So there were rebates that are long on. There were, 2 or 3 years ago, the rebates were oversubscribed, so there are no more rebates. And when the rebate program was enacted 10 years ago, the idea was that the rebates were declined every year. And the idea was that the cost of solar will decline every year too. So, and actually, it's one of the programs that really worked well. And we're doing solar now at 1/4 the cost that we were doing it at 10 years ago. So there are no rebates or grants. There is an investment tax credit that private entities get if we own the solar project. So those are finer details, but we'll work with staff on, you can take the benefit of a tax-exempt lease, which is tax-free interest, right, at 3.75, or we can consider that NG owns the project, the solar project, and we get the investment tax credit, but our rate of return that we require on our investment is higher than 3.75. So, so we present all options to the staff in next phase, and so that's something we'll evaluate.
Oh, I'll be looking forward to that. Now, years back when I served in the school board, the school district went through a similar process, and I know that they were successful with the retrofitting and lighting, but I always ask the question, why not solar? And the answer that I got back at the time was that the savings of the electricity were so low that the cost of the infrastructure would exceed and probably would not be a really good savings. Now, this was maybe back 2011, 2012. I don't know if this is still the sentiment that you hear from certain entities that get a really low cost of energy because of how big they are. How would you address that?
Well, first, I've been trying to work with Madera Unified for a long time, so any help from you would be appreciated.
Well, I mean, at that time, like I said, solar for me, I've always said, well, man, why wouldn't we want to go solar? Why not solar?
So the answer is there's, 7, 8 years ago, like I mentioned, the price was really high, but then there were incentives. I think solar was still viable at that time, so I'm not really sure. We've been doing solar since the last 15 years. We did Fresno State, the parking lot solar there 10 years ago. We built that project at literally 4 times what we are offering you. And it still penciled out because the rebates were there. The rebates took half the project was paid by rebates. So I don't know why, solar savings have come down over time, but the price has come down even more. We would, I think solar is a great thing and we can make it pencil out. And especially if you can do ground mount, that's where you make real money compared to shade structures.
I think they have very large spaces of where those things can be utilized. And I will definitely share that sentiment, and hopefully that might be the case. But again, the concern at that time was that it wasn't cost effective.
The other thing I was going to add, so, he made the comment of, costs has come down tremendously, but then PG&E rates have gone up since. So there's always an increase, anywhere from 4 to 8% in increase in PG&E rates. So there's just this balance and combination of price and rate structures that you have to understand and evaluate at any point in time. And so a lot of people have that question. And so, right now, as we look at the project, we do think that there's a really good opportunity here.
And I'm sure there is. I was one of those believers that I thought, but when they presented the numbers, obviously that wasn't there. And again, we're talking 7 years ago.
Right.
So, yes.
And that could have been the exact case. Maybe it just, at the time, the rate between the rates and the costs, it just didn't make any sense. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Councilman Robinson.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, Mr. Jane and Carolyn. And I'm impressed, it's the biggest company in the world. And especially in Oakland, I used to stay in Oakland. And I'm impressed about the energy saving, plus the use of batteries, conserve energy. And more light mean less crime. And also conserving energy for sustainability. Updating a lot of our air conditioner and lights. So I'm impressed, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Councilman Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Jane and Ms. Kiesner, for this great presentation. And I have a comment and a question. First, I want to commend you all for really becoming immersed in the city of Madera and its community. I mean, you mentioned our city's vision plan. You referenced its action items. You mentioned our CIP, our general budget, our climate action plan, our infrastructure goals, and not only that, but you started by seeing before presenting, and you actually went out and walked the streets and saw it for yourself, some of our neighborhoods in need. So I want to commend you for just rolling up your sleeves and really getting to know the city of Madera and working with our staff. And for me, that makes me feel better. Makes me feel comfortable moving forward on a large-scale project like this, not having to worry about whether or not our partner will be there in 5 years or 10 years. And so I really appreciate that commitment and all of your efforts to date.
I'm going to try to be there, but Carolyn definitely.
I'll definitely be here.
Absolutely.
I'll wheelchair him in.
So again, thank you so much. And I think my question would be, and Carolyn, you mentioned changes to rate structures. Can you maybe provide any insight as to if there's any anticipated rate structure changes on the horizon and how it might impact municipalities and why this might be, timing is of the essence?
Sure. Yes, we will tag team that question.
Yeah. So the rates have been changing. Actually, to be frank, for the worse for solar projects. Without going into too many details about what happened at the PUC and all that, rates, what has happened is solar produces most between the hours of, in the afternoon. And the rates, PG&E rates, were highest in the afternoon. So if you would actually, PG&E had to buy that expensive electricity that the solar projects were producing. So they went back to the PUC and said that our peak periods have shifted. There's so much solar in the state that our peak periods have shifted. So we want to change the peak period from 12 to 6 to 4 to 9. And PUC has agreed. That's been legislated now. It'll start applying next year. So this was a long, drawn-out process. And so we don't anticipate that, after this long, drawn-out process where our lobbyists went against their lobbyists, and you can see whose lobbyists are better, so they won. But we were able to really mitigate the rate on each category. So, but the rates have already changed. The savings that we projected are based on the rates that will apply next year because they've already been legislated. So I don't think you should be very worried about rates for the foreseeable future.
The only thing I was going to add is, we had this question asked last week as well. And so because it practically took an act of Congress to change the rates just this year, we really don't anticipate another rate change to happen for a few decades from now, so at least.
That might be a little too much, but yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again.
Mr. Mayor, if I could also, I'd like to add, and I know that Ashu and Carolyn won't bring this up, but they gave us a proposal 3 years ago. And we did not act on that, and we left an awful lot of money on the table. And you talk about their diligence, and they were willing to come back and do it again. Their pre-assessment takes a great deal of time, and they've done that for the city twice, actually 3 times. And so, you're mentioning of time being critical. If you don't approve this tonight and we push this down the road, we will leave money on the table again. Things do change that quickly, whether it be from solar or another act of Congress relating to PG&E. But we're very appreciative of the work that they've put in and their diligence. That really has spanned 3 years. So I just want to make sure the council was aware of that.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Frazier. Councilwoman Gallegos.
Well, Mr. Frazier, that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up, to sticking with Madera. We appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that you're going to work with our wastewater treatment plant solar panels out there. It's a graveyard, and we've seen that lease traded over from a hand to a hand, and now with you on board, if that does happen tonight, that hopefully will be taken care of. I also would like to maybe look at your scope of work and adding our new fire station, Station 58, which is going to be built with the combinations to put solar on it when it's finished. So if we can kind of maybe look at that too.
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Councilman Robinson.
Yes, also new legislation says that all housing are required to have solar.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so, thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. So we have been talking about solar and solar projects here for a number of years. And for whatever reason, kicking the can down the road has cost us money. It really, really has. But we're here now, and it's about moving forward. And I know this council, as well as past councils, have maybe inquired. But NG certainly has come forward more than once, as was stated, with walking the streets and with really getting to know Madera and doing what's best. And I do know that if it didn't pencil out, you wouldn't be here today. I do have a couple of questions. Administrative time, what are you going to require with our current staff moving forward? What kind of assistance are you going to need, or what should we expect?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, we are a turnkey provider. So, during the study phase, the most important thing we need from staff is information. We'll ask for drawings and, plans. And if they're there, that's good. If they're not, we'll work without it. We need access to facilities. We need to walk facilities with the mechanical systems and we've done actually quite a lot of that already, but we'll need to walk with your staff that understands those facilities. So we need access, and then we need decisions. So, do you like Carrier or do you like Train? We are a vendor-neutral supplier. We'll tell you what we think is the best, and you'll have to look at who provides you best service locally. And then, there'll be a lot of times we'll ask you for decisions. And, do you want to go with 20-year financing, or do you want to explore something else, different kind of financing? So time commitment is really not that big. It's more, it's a fast-moving process. We're looking for decisions from staff and ultimately from the council. But I think, in my experience, because we do everything very collaboratively, so we'll just need to maybe have a meeting every 2 weeks with staff to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Good point, and we can certainly move as fast as need be. Which brings me to my next question: stimulating the local economy. You talked about using local P. That's very, very important to this council and who we are with local hires and using local vendors.
Right. So we do a phenomenal job of reaching out to the local contractor community. We'll reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, and so I'll give you an example. We did in the city of Lemoore, which is a very small city. I mean, compared to Madera, we did $20 million worth of work, and the city council said, "How much of it are you gonna subcontract locally?" And by local, they said, "We mean city of Lemoore. We don't mean Kings County." And we were able to get to 27% just within the city, and city of Lemoore doesn't have the same capability that city of Madera does. So we'll do our best, and we'll, we start with staff and see who they recommend. This is all, there's a government code that allows us to work with any contractor that the city likes. So there are a lot of flexibility here.
Fantastic. I appreciate that, and I'm sure I can speak for the council when I say that it is most important to us. When we work out that contract, or at least up front from us, that's something very, very important to use those local hires, local contractors, and of course the supplies or whatever you need, if we can get that here locally.
Correct.
Fantastic. Any other questions of Mr. Kiesner or Mr. Jane? Fantastic. Thank you both very much. If there are no further questions, I will ask for action on this item.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve item C3 as presented.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve item C3. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you both very much for being here.
Thank you.
And also a thank you to Dave Merchant and Steve Frazier and staff for bringing this here before us. We really appreciate that. Moving on to item C4, this is consideration of a resolution approving the award of contract for Fire Station number 58.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor,
Helmuth.
council members. Well, we finally got here. We want to go ahead and award the fire station construction contract tonight. It was held until tonight so that we could look into the validity of a few claims that were out there, and we've looked into them, and we feel comfortable that we can move forward now. The fire station is the direct result of Measure K. Without Measure K, it's uncertain when this fire station would have moved forward. There were two bids on this particular project. The low bid was $6,568,000, with the engineer's estimate being $7.27 million. So the bid came in lower. We were fortunate there. We were expecting bids actually to be coming in higher because the market was fairly hot. As already noted, the project is funded by Measure K. What we'll do first here is spend the cash that we have on hand and then issue debt as we move into the point where we need to go ahead and do so. The total plan that we have is for construction contingencies, other miscellaneous items. That includes dry utilities, a couple of those, construction management and testing. And with that, I'll keep the presentation short. And if you recommend approval of the two resolutions, one for construction of the fire station and another for testing. And with that, I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Keith. Any questions of Mr. Helmuth or Mr. Richardson regarding this particular item? Doesn't seem like it, Keith. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Since there are no questions, I will ask if there's anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this particular item. Please come forward. Seeing none, I will bring it back to council for action on these two separate items.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to first make a motion to approve the resolution for construction of the fire station as presented in item C4.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution approving the award of contract for fire station number 58. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And the second item.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the, what is that, testing?
That would be the approval of the resolution approving the contract with Moore Twinning and Associates for on-demand testing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that.
Cool.
Moving on to item C5, this is consideration of a resolution approving a Fifth Amendment to the City Attorney at-will employment agreement.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, this is really kind of a bookkeeping item. While council is in the process of reviewing their direct report employees, Mr. Richardson has a contract that expires this Friday. And so looking out for the best interests of both the employee as well as the city, we're looking at a 60-day extension to give council time to rework those contracts and still keep in force the current contract that he signed back in 2015, I believe. Yeah, 2015. So just in order to ensure continuity, we had asked that council approve the extension so that we don't have a lapse in agreements. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. Any questions regarding this particular item, C5? If not, before we move further, Sonia, I need to read the announcement. Is that correct? If approved, the proposed amendment to the City Attorney's at-will employment agreement would extend the term of the existing agreement by 60 days for the purposes of ongoing contract negotiations. That being read, I will ask the council for action.
So move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item C5 as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to council reports.
Can I go first?
Starting at my far left with Councilman Hawley.
I just want to do this so I wouldn't forget. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I think you did an awesome job this morning for first five.
Thank you.
He did one mistake, and I worked
Yes.
on that with him. But
I know.
other than that, I think we ought to be proud of our mayor's presentation that he gave the first five as leadership that we talk about for our kids. It was a sellout crowd. My head goes off the first five for their 20-year anniversary. All the spectators that were there was really amazed of the outcome of all of it. And Mrs. Boss from the health department also did an uplifting presentation as well. With that, I just thank you for your continuity that you give to our city. A lot of people might not see or think about what you and I may see, but we're old timers. We've been in Madera all our lives, and for somebody to stand up and just give a presentation and really off the top of his head was mostly awarding to me to listen to it and to hear it. Councilman Riggery was there to be present, so we show you our great support of what you did.
Thank you very much, Councilman Hawley. I appreciate it. I certainly enjoyed the time, and I was honored that First Five Madera County asked me to be their keynote speaker at their 20-year anniversary celebration today. There's there's a number of things to talk about and discuss, and I'll do that when it was my turn, but I think one of the biggest takeaways, as was mentioned more than once, was how we are collaborating. The city and the county and the city of Chowchilla, and all three were represented there today. But it was mentioned by a number of people on how the community can see that moving forward and getting things done is taking a collaborative effort from the very smallest of steps to the grand scheme of things. And so thank you very much for those comments, Councilman Hawley. I really do appreciate it. Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Oliver.
Nothing to report.
Councilman Robinson.
Nothing to report.
Councilwoman Gallegos.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow's National Night Out Connect at the fairgrounds, and I hear that Councilman Oliver is going to be in the dunk tank.
Yep, that's what I heard too.
We'll see. We'll see. He has a good arm.
That's what, yeah. I think Councilman Rigby's buying $200 worth of balls to throw.
Did I hear correct that,
I'll stay
that,
dry.
that Chief Lawson's going to be in the dunk tank too? All right.
Gladly. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will make a note to that, Councilwoman. I believe last year's chief of police was in the dunk tank fully dressed in his uniform. Is that right? Did any of you remember that?
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make a point, that's all.
Just pass the baton on, Chief. Pass the baton on.
Anything else, Councilwoman?
That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Rigby.
I'd like to take the opportunity to sort of tag off of this morning's first five presentation, 20 years in Madera, and I think that that's incredible. The part about collaboration, today was our first intake meeting for the Pomona Ranch project, part 2. And you talk about collaborative effort. I mean, from county agencies to private agencies, it's an incredible team that we get to be a part of as a city. And we've already started taking applicants for, so we got the first couple of families already selected for Pomona Ranch, and that process is still taking place. But this morning it was extra special being with the men and women of the First Five program. My mom started out in early child care development at First Five, and I know my dad's here in the crowd. Keep the waterworks dry, Dad. And so my mom was, First Five was a big part of our lives. Early childhood development, big part of my life. I now have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old, and reading is very important in our house. My kids love to count, love to read. My son is already at M&M&OP, and so it's beautiful and it's gorgeous. But sitting in front of my council members tonight are a couple of stories from Potter the Otter. And I'm going to do something that was asked of the mayor, myself, and council member Hawley. But if my council members would take the books that are in front of them and raise it up with your right hand. And what was asked of us by the First Five directors was that we would take these books and either read them to somebody under the age of 5, or better yet, give it to a family or a parent who have that child and go through the book. Potter the Otter is their brand new mascot. This book is written in Spanish, and I believe there's one other language. I think it's Mandarin. And so in this book, so your job, council members, are to read this book. That shouldn't be too hard for our teacher, but or find a family that could read it to their children. Promise?
Promise.
All right, there it is.
I got 3 of them.
With that, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have to report.
Thank you very much. It really, truly was an honor, and thank you all for being there and supporting Madera County First Five and their efforts in our county. The statistics were astounding over the last 20 years, and to know that there was a time where Madera County ranked last, dead last, in the amount of children having access to preschool. And so our population now in Madera County is about 160,000 people, 16,000 of which are children ages 0 to 5. And half of that, about 8,000 children, are that preschool age, like your kids' age, with just about 2,700 slots for preschool in Madera County. And not all slots are filled. So we're talking almost 6,000 kids that don't have access to quality preschool prior to going to kindergarten, and then it goes on from there. You mentioned Councilwoman Gallegos as a teacher. In 2015, statistically speaking, only 25% of our third graders here in Madera County are proficient in reading, 1 in 4. And so when you look at the statistics about graduating high school and or not graduating high school, not going on to college, ending up behind bars or addicted and things, it's just appalling. Money is always an issue, and it really truly was an honor to speak today and to bring up some of those statistics and to ask for partnerships. So when it comes time to voting, like Prop 10 20 years ago that offered a 50-cent sales tax, a 50-cent per cigarette pack tax, back then raised $600 million for first 5 in the state. Less people are smoking, black market, what have you, and now $350 million are being raised. So it's a $250 million shortfall, which falls right here on Madera County. So there is a lot we can do. We can certainly advocate for our children 0 to 5. As we talked about in our intergovernmental meeting, we're talking about homelessness, we're talking about poverty, we're talking about jobs or the lack thereof, but we're not talking about those children ages 0 to 5. And if we can't catch them at that age and do everything in our power to assist them with literacy, with home visits, with whatever they need, then we end up talking about them later on in homeless meetings and things of that nature. So again, I was honored. I thank you all for your support. I think it was a great 20 years, and there's a lot of work to be done. But I will say this, although I haven't met everybody who works at Madera County First 5 and all the partners, I will say this, they're extraordinary people. They really, really are. They work with their heart and with their soul, and they love children, they love families, and they love making a difference. And so from me to them, I can't thank them enough for what they do in our county. Councilman Hawley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, to our staff, I just want to thank you guys for what you're doing for victim services. I went by there today, and I thank the city for what they did to help them get in that building, whatever it took. I think it's going to be a great asset for our Madera County Action Partnership to house and to work with our battered women and battered children and lost and hurt. They have the privacy that they need to work with that. And if you ever get a chance to go by there and look at the office, it's awesome. And I just think whatever our city did to help them get there and make this process go forward is well deserved. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Councilman Hawley. We had another affordable housing meeting this morning. I want to thank staff for being there. We're moving forward with Michael Segala and Associates and our affordable housing project on 5th and C Street. Another great collaborative meeting moving forward. And also we had a Madera County Transportation meeting today. We have been holding our fingers for that bond savings, $15 million for the widening of 99. And actually, the meeting starts today, but I think we're like 88th on the list.
99.
Yeah, something like that.
88.
88 through 93
99,
or something.
yeah.
Anyway, they probably won't bring up our item until tomorrow. So I'm really hoping by late tomorrow, early evening, if not later than Friday morning, we will certainly know if we have good news on that funding to put that towards $89 million project and adding a 5th and 6th lane from Avenue 12 to 17 through the city of Madera. We can get started on that project as early as spring next year. So very, very exciting times in the city of Madera. If there's nothing else, thank you everybody in the audience for being here. I really appreciate it. And I will ask for an announcement from Mr. Richardson.
Yes, Mayor, the council now will adjourn to closed session for 3 items. The first being conference with legal counsel in pending litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1 in one matter as listed. Second, conference with legal counsel in anticipated litigation. That's initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of Subdivision D of Section 54956.9 in one potential case. Last item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, and the representatives and positions are as listed on the agenda.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Richardson, if you would, please.
The council adjourned to closed session in 3 items, first being conference with legal counsel and pending litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. No reportable action was taken. They met in conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, that's initiation of litigation pursuant to paragraph 4 of Subdivision D of Section 54956.9. No reportable action was taken in that matter. Lastly, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. No reportable action was taken in that matter either, and that's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Richardson. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned. Atta girl.
Oh, I have one more thing to say. Steve, have a wonderful...